Okay, dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks to all your suggestions, I've been making this video for the past 2 days and it's finally out. So this video is gonna be about all the upcoming future heroes that you should save for and probably want to have. But of course, this is going to be subjected to a lot of discussion and opinion, and different people may have different thoughts about certain heroes. Okay, but I'm gonna just give you guys a general idea and also provide my own personal summon plans at the end of the video. Okay, so what you can expect from this video is that I'm gonna go through 20 heroes that are gonna be released over the next 6 months based on what has been released in Korea version. We're also gonna talk about their skill set and also their trajectory and lifespan in the game. So this will give you a better idea of whether you want to have this hero. And finally, the verdict to pull or to skip. But before we talk about that, I just want to remind you guys the differences between the Legend heroes and the Legend Plus heroes. The Legend heroes will have their own rate up summon banner, which is the red one, and there is a 0.53% chance to get them in that banner. And if you still don't get them after 14 multis, it's gonna be a 75% chance to get them at the PT. Okay, and for the Legend Plus, they are gonna be released in the blue banner, which is a special summon banner. There's 0.03% chance to get them, and there's 4.28% chance to get them at the PT. And alternatively, you can get them from the Moonstone banner, whereby the only Legend hero is gonna be that hero you choose. Okay, and there's a 0.7% chance to get them. So the chance of getting them there is higher and probably better than a special summon banner. Okay, so keep this in mind because later on we'll be talking about some really OP heroes and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I really want to get him. But yeah, the rates are real. Okay, so the first hero we'll be getting next week is Legendary Miss Velvet. So to go through her skill set, she increases her own crit damage, she teleports to the target and deals single target damage by a certain amount of her attack percentage. She also deals single target and silences the target on skill 2. On skill 3, she has a stealth. This is the exact same effect as what the current Legend Plus Shane has. And for her ultimate, she deals huge single target damage. So you might be reading this and be thinking, oh, so is she gonna be a PvE unit because, you know, it's all single target and she is likely to be a single target damage dealer, a DPS basically. And yes, that is definitely true. She is going to be a PvE single target damage dealer, but not only that, okay, she is also very good in PvP from what I've seen. But let's talk about the PvE aspect first. Okay, so she's definitely gonna be really good in your 4-man and 8-man raids. She can hold her own ground as a damage dealer if you don't have a Shane or a co-set. Okay, and also you need to keep in mind, because she is a legendary hero only, unlike Shane, she is gonna be easier to build relatively because you're gonna be able to buy more of her soul stones compared to Shane at a faster rate. And she is also going to be appearing more in the raid up banners in future as well. So you're more likely to have a higher chance to get her compared to getting Shane. Okay, so that's one thing. And because she is also a DPS, she's going to be really good in your experience dungeon and raids, as I mentioned, and all those situations where you do need a melee damager. But for PvP, you might be thinking, how is a single target hero going to be really good in PvP? To your surprise, she actually lasted 4 months in PvP, in the PvP meta itself, 4 months after her release. Of course, that said, we don't know if the global version is going to speed up the banner speed. Okay, if that happens, then of course that won't be that good. Okay, it won't be good for anyone. But if they're keeping the pace of the banners the same, then yes, she does last for 4 months as one of the top DPS PvP units. Okay, the reason is because she, even though she's a DPS, she does attack from a distance. Okay, and she also has the teleportation effect, so she would go all the way back behind the enemy's team and kill whatever is at the back. Usually it's the healer, the support unit, right, or the range unit. So when that happens, she doesn't take any sort of damage for a very long time in the battle, and she also has a stealth effect, which means she takes less AoE skill damage, and she has increased status effect resistance. So she really has quite a good amount of damage mitigation in PvP itself, and she's able to deal huge amounts of damage. The overall idea and consensus is that she has to be slightly built out, otherwise her damage will not be as ideal as what you can get from Shane, right? So yeah, this is a very objective review for Miss Velvet, and after 4 months after she has fallen off the PvP meta, she can stably be a PvE damage dealer as well. Okay, so if you want to invest in her, it's definitely not going to be a waste. And so the verdict whether you should pull or not to pull, I would say if you don't have a very good damage dealer right now, she is going to be worth to pull, especially since you can also use her in PvP, so that is kind of like a double advantage. Okay, but if you already have Shane or Cosette and maybe only your PvP side is lacking like myself, I probably will want to skip out on this because I don't really need additional damage dealers in my PvE right now. I rather just focus down on one damage dealer first, because after all, gear sets are a real problem. Okay? So moving on, we have Mercure. Mercure will actually come a month after Miss Velvet based on the Korean schedule, but we are not too sure what's going to happen now because in between there was a New Year celebration. Okay, so likely it may be the same, likely. So Mercure's skill set is going to involve him having a shield cast on himself based on his attack percentage for a certain duration of time, and he also has a single target skill that stuns. And the rest of his skills are all AoE with buff removal, stun chance, and also one that guarantees crits. Okay, so for his ultimate, it is also an AoE skill, and it also has suppression for Salios. So definitely straight off the bat, he's going to be a unit that will be used in the Salios raid, but definitely not mandatory if you're already using Ming in Salios raid as a suppressor. On top of that, he is also used in PvP because he has so many AoE skills and also has buff removal and also has CC, right? So definitely very viable in PvP, and in fact, based on what I've studied, he is one of the top universal units upon the release, okay, and lasted for about 3 months in the PvP meta, in the universal teams especially, and fell off after that because of the release of Kris, Evan and Shane, Nestra Shane. So once these more powerful universal units come out, Mercure is definitely going to be out of the meta by then. That will take about 3 months after his release, okay, and subsequently of course he will just be used in Salios raid or even the gold dungeon because he has so many AoEs, right? So he will definitely have some long-term usage, but the question comes again, should you pull or should you skip? Well, personally, I think it's also a skip for me, okay, because I don't really see a very big reason to pull him unless it comes to a point where I really feel like I need to push in PvP because my PvP team is really bad, okay, but there's no big reason to pull for him unless you want a more dedicated suppressor for Salios and just a little bit more damage, because ultimately, you can't stun Salios for sure, so his CC is not going to work in the raid, so you're just relying on him for damage and also for the suppressor skill, right? So that's basically it for Mercure. So I would say it's a skip because there will be a very big important PvE hero coming 2 weeks after Mercure, and that is Legend Lene. Legend Lene's skill set involves her dealing defense ignoring damage equal to a certain percentage of her attack to shock targets in an AoE range. For her skills, she charges towards the enemy, dealing AoE damage, pulls them and has a chance to shock, and second skill also has a chance to shock. Third skill is more AoE based and reduces target's movement and attack speed and increases her own attack speed. Okay. For her ultimate, it deals a huge ton of damage to all enemies in a straight line range and has a chance to shock as well. More importantly, she is the suppressor for Nestra Shane. And I think the decision of whether to pull for her really comes down to this. If you do not have her, you cannot do the Nestra Shane raid, from what I've known. Okay, she is the dedicated suppressor for the Nestra Shane raid that will come out with her on that update. And you may think, so how important is this Nestra Shane raid? The Nestra Shane raid is going to be a game changer raid because it will introduce the new gear set for attack speed. And attack speed sets are going to be so important in PvP, whereby you straight up just deal so much damage at the start of the battle and enemies without that kind of attack speed will not be able to keep up. Okay, so Nestra Shane raid is definitely a very important one, and Lene is going to be one of the must-have heroes for that raid. So I think you guys know the verdict for this hero already, okay? But not only that, she's also going to be really good in PvP upon release. She pairs very well with Fordina Eileen, who also does shock as well. So Legend Lene and Legend Fordina Eileen are gonna be a great pair to run with on top of other heroes like Spike, Claire, Velda and Ming. However, Lene does fall off slightly after 2 months of release in the PvP side, but not to worry because she's definitely going to be someone you're going to use every other day for the Nestra Shane battles. And coming together with Legend Lene is Legend plus Rudy. Legend plus Rudy is basically the best Rudy in the whole game. Okay, he is the best tank even until now in Korea meta because they haven't been releasing many tank units, I believe. So Legend Rudy is going to have a long-lasting effect. So what does he do? For his skill set, he does reduce the debuff. For his passive, he does reduce the debuff duration on allies by a certain percentage of time. Okay, for his skill 1, he becomes unstoppable and charges at the target, dealing AoE damage equal to both his attack percent and defense percent. So that is some huge multipliers right there. He also has a chance to apply taunt on himself. For skill 2, he teleports to the target and deals AoE damage based on his attack percent and defense percent. And skill 3, he has a reflect as well and also casts a shield on himself. And his ultimate casts a shield on all allies, links, and also has a suppressor for variant. So he's definitely the better Rudy to have for the variant raid, and overall he's definitely good. But overall, he's also going to be regularly used in your scenarios and all other PvE modes because of this skill set that he has. It's just so good as a tank unit. Okay, and this is the case where I want to say this guy is definitely a must pull. But think about it again, he is a Legend Plus, and think about the raids again. So even if you spend your rubies on him, you may not get him. And also coming along with him is Lene, who is going to be a must-have. So this update is actually going to be one of the most update and game-changing updates in 7 Nights 2 in the near future. So you may really want to save all your rubies for this update. Okay. Following Rudy, we have a very popular hero, and that is Kris, and that is the Legend Kris. So to save time, I'm just going to summarize the skill set. Okay, overall, Kris is going to be a supporter and also going to be a debuffer, main debuffer, range debuffer for PvE. He is not actually used in PvP at all, okay, upon release because of just how he is designed. He is mainly used in PvE. So as a PvE support hero, being a ranged hero means you can actually use him in the Soulstone Quarry, Elixir Dungeon as well, and also in Salios to boost some damage. And I think he is not exactly used that much when he was released because there are so many other more powerful DPSs around, but he can definitely be a support unit whereby you can use him with Cossack to have a double range unit formation like the bombardment formation, and you still be able to enjoy the debuff that he has. This defense reduction is something that Rachel has, and Rachel doesn't really go well with a range team formation unless you use a crit formation. So when you're looking at new units, you have to consider all these as well, whether this new unit can actually fit into a certain team composition that you enjoy, and that may affect your decision in wanting to pull for him. Okay, so of course he won't be, overall his skill set isn't as amazing as Rachel, but the fact that he is a ranged unit and can be used with a Cossack means you can run him as a secondary DPS, and having a very strong ultimate skill as well is likely going to make him very useful. However, he really gains utility when Growth Dungeon starts to expand, okay, beyond the tier 10, which means the tier 11 to tier 15. I think that's when he starts to shine, and that won't be coming for a while. Okay, so you don't have to worry. Again, he will come back in future banners, future radar banners as well if you do need him. And yeah, I don't think he is a must-have at the moment at all. Following that, we have Aquila, who is actually a support unit. So Aquila has a very interesting passive whereby depending on where you place her, she gains various effects. And overall, I think she is a great unit to have for PvP only because she doesn't have that much healing, okay, as a support unit. She is really designed to boost and protect the highest damage dealer in your team, okay, based on her skill set whereby she casts a shield to increase their defense, and she also casts damage immunity on the ally with the highest attack. But all that said, she is not really a big meta changer in a sense, because there are still many other units in the PvP meta that are stable, like Velda and Ming. You know, Velda and Ming are really two units that are amazing at launch and have lasted for many months, even down all the way after 10 or 11 months. Okay, they are still one of the best heroes to have for PvP. Velda, Ming, okay, Claire, all these heroes that have been released already. And Aquila actually falls off after 3 months of release, whereby, as I said, after you have stronger universal heroes coming out, Aquila isn't used anymore, but she was used quite heavily when she was released, because she is kind of like the only PvP specialized support unit at that time. Okay, so if you're interested in tank teams or universal teams for PvP and you like to seek that extra boost, Aquila probably is worth the consideration, but otherwise I will skip her. Next up we have Juju, Legend Juju. Okay, Legend Juju, it brings a new effect which is called mutation, and if you watch the animation up there, she converts the enemies to sheep. Okay, so that's pretty funny, and I think it's cute in a way. Overall, she does a lot of AoE damage and also has a buff removal effect. Okay, she also gains damage immunity when she is incapacitated. Incapacitated meaning she is stunned, frozen, or petrified, shocked. Okay, so all these effects, when she is inflicted with them, she will not be getting any damage during that duration. So pretty useful for her survivability. She is going to be a PvP unit. Okay, but she is also team and formation dependent. Usually she is used in a range team with Claire, okay, or used in CC teams, because ultimately she does a lot of CC as well, and also used in the rush, infiltration, defense, or block formation kind of team, right? So that means you also have universal units to pair along with her. As I said, Velda and Ming are two units that have lasted for a very long time, so many people actually run Juju, Claire, Velda, Ming, you know, that kind of combination. Even Spike is possible as well. She lasted even after 3 months in PvP and still remains as one of the best ranged PvP units, because ultimately you have to keep this in mind. She is coming out literally almost 4 months after Claire as the first new ranged unit. Okay, so for ranged teams, this is a huge deal. This is really a huge deal, and of course they have to make ranged units on par with the other kind of units. So Juju definitely has a huge edge in terms of that. But again, because she is so team dependent, she is definitely not a meta changer as well. But she does increase the variety in PvP, and because there are so many units before her that are still very stable and viable, I don't see a real need to get her unless you really want to run that range team. Okay, next up we have another duo banner update. So this means this update is also going to be pretty big, but first we're going to talk about the Kid Shane. So Kid Shane is a specialist in Field Expedition, and upon an enemy's death in Field Expedition, she will increase the whole team's movement speed and attack speed, and also has a chance to reduce her own skill cooldown. So that is insanely good, okay, for your farming efficiency. Not only that, she has two very good AoE skills, and she also does damage in a straight line range, okay, and it comes with a combo skill as well. So it's very likely that she will be doing a lot of AoE damage in Field Expedition. Not only that, her skill 3, okay, she increases allies damage in Field Expedition and reduces allies damage received. So she is completely, you know, specialized to boost your entire team for Field Expedition. And if you still face difficulty in Field Expedition, especially in future when there's gonna be like an extreme difficulty, I think this Shane could be a valuable asset for that purpose. But maybe you may not want to get her so soon, just because there's going to be much bigger things coming up. Okay, but you know, I mean, if you think you can save enough rubies within a month's time after her release, I think you go for it, because I think this Shane is going to be so good in Field Expedition, and I always appreciate very good and very well designed units that are specialized for a certain purpose, to be honest. Coming along with her is going to be Legend plus Kris. Legend plus Kris is going to be one of the units that will influence the PvP meta for sure, because he is probably the first unit in 7 Knights 2 that brings death. So very similar to his 7 Knights 1 skill set, he does gain immortality after his HP falls below 10%. He also increases the probability of all his hits and also resets the cooldown of all his skills. So what death actually does is that it will cause the enemy to lose 5% of their HP every 5 seconds, and if hit again with death, they will die immediately. There may be some translation issues here because it was very convoluted when I translated it. There are so many words, so I don't exactly know if this is going to be the exact effect, but the idea should be there, whereby if you hit the enemy with death a second time, they definitely will die. And he also does apply fear, which is very similar to his 7 Knights 1 effect as well, Myth Kris effect. So what fear does in PvP is that it causes the enemies to run in the opposite direction and their movement speed is reduced. So this is something similar we have already seen in the story, right, when Bane casts fear on us. So yeah, basically he is someone that will influence the entire PvP meta when he appears. His usage was actually pretty decent on release and slowly increased, maybe because he is an L+ and not many people got him at the start. Okay, his cooldown is a little low, so it makes him very efficient in the death casting, and of course his immortality and skill cooldown reset all helps in that. He's also used alongside double Rudy teams Velder, Ming and Mercure at this point when he was released. Okay, so this is some things you can consider, and whether you should pull for him or not really depends on the team that you are using. If you're a fan of Kris, go for it, right? If you are using universal comms, go for it. He gains utility over time. Okay, even after the next very big hero comes out, and that is Legend plus Evan. Okay, so universal comms will definitely be a thing that you will see for a pretty long time, and Kris is part of that. But he does fall off subsequently when Ace comes out. And one thing to note that is he is also gotten for free when your account CP hits 3 million. Not sure when everyone's gonna get that, but yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind, that he is gonna be a mercenary free unit. Okay, so what comes after Kris? It's Legend Adel. Okay, I honestly thought he was Wukong when I first saw his image. Okay, yeah. So Legend Adel, he has a very interesting skill set and probably one of the first that focuses on burns, other than Rachel of course, and he also becomes a DPS unit. Interestingly, so bear in mind that when he was released, the universal teams dominated PvP. So he is definitely not going to see much use there, okay, unless you run a DPS team comp, which I'm not too sure how good that will be. And again, his burn is not really supported by any other hero, so you cannot really run a burn comp with him alone. So it's more likely he was released for a PvE purpose to be paired with Rachel, because Rachel is the other unit that burns a lot. And Adel himself deals additional damage to burn targets. He also has a lot of burning chance, and he gives himself damage immunity. So when I was researching on this unit, I saw that he was actually used in Salios raid and Lizardria. For Salios, you can burn Salios, and Adel definitely comes in handy there, whereby he is able to do more damage to Salios and help you bring Salios down much faster. But more importantly, he's actually paired with Rachel in Lizardria raid, whereby you can use them in an attack formation, and because he has damage immunity effect, he can even attack Lizardria in the poison pool, right? So that is actually a very viable strategy that you may want to employ if you do get Adel. I would say he is a skip, especially considering that 2 weeks after his release, it's going to be a huge update. It's a game-changing update whereby we finally get Nestra Shane as a playable character. So what Nestra Shane does is that when she is incapacitated, stunned, frozen, shocked, she will remove debuffs instantly on herself and grants herself a shield equal to a certain percentage of her attack. This is literally a straight up counter to the entire meta, because the entire meta all the way up till then, which is about 4-5 months in after Claire's release. Okay, it is still very much focused on status effects and universal damage. Okay, so but the status effects still exist, and Shane's passive straight up just says no to that. And she also does a lot of AoE damage, chance to blind, remove buffs, pulls in targets, knockback, and her skill set is just overall very good for PvP. Of course, if you want to use her in PvE, she is also good because of the AoE damage. You can use her in Gold Vault for sure, okay? But she is an incredibly versatile universal hero and has been used in many comps, even defensive comps, range comps. She is used so much. So if you're looking to change up your PvP and keep up with PvP, I think Nestra Shane is definitely someone you will want to pick up. But along with her comes Legend Plus Evan, also known as Catastrophe. He is just downright broken when I read his skill set, okay? He is someone that will be the meta changer when he comes. Like, he is just so good. If you read his skill set, he has a chance to remove buffs and reduce damage he receives when he does basic attacks. That's already wow. He also has single target damage, stuns the target, knocks back, resets his skill 2 cooldown. His skill 2 cooldown actually allows stun targets to take additional damage. So this syncs very well with his skill 1, which stuns. Then his skill 3 and ultimate are just crazy because it grants him invincibility, whereby he becomes immune to damage and status effects. And he also increases his own crit rate and crit damage, and he also recovers his HP. Yeah, so I mean, he is just that amazing, and the overall consensus is that he is such an all-rounded unit that he can be used in PvE as well as a main damage dealer, because he can sustain his own damage dealing capabilities with his skill 3. Alright, he also can't die that easily. He also just hits super hard. And in PvP, I don't think I need to say much. This was a unit that was designed to change up PvP completely and serve as a greater boost for universal comps that have already existed for a long time. Legend Plus Evan is definitely someone that almost, I would say, everyone should try to get, okay? Definitely a must pull. And probably you'll be broke after Legend Plus, so upcoming Legend Shane is probably going to be a big skip, okay? But what does she do? She has a passive similar to Serena, but instead of healing based on her own HP stat, she heals allies based on their own HP stat. Probably better in that sense because some of your heroes may have higher HP and they can heal more, okay, depending on who you use it with. But in this case, you can also see this as a way that she is meant for PvP defensive comps as well, because they could more likely be equipped with HP armor, so they may heal more and have a lot of survivability. For her skill set, generally it does increase the amount of recovery rate that allies get. They can heal more, and she also has a cleansing move, and she also has revival. So for PvE wise, she is going to be really good again when growth dungeon tiers expand. And for PvP, when paired up with heroes like Evan, Rudy and Karin, you can have a pretty invincible team that doesn't die. A tank team basically, okay? But again, as I said, because she is coming right after Evan, I don't think you're gonna have rubies for her. And she is also not a must summon because in 1 month's time, you're gonna get Lina. Lina is gonna be way superior than Shay. Okay, and we'll talk about that later. But before Lina, we're gonna get Noho in between. Noho is going to be a guild raid specialist, guild raid DPS unit, damage dealing unit. Okay, she has a very interesting skill set, as you see, because all her skills don't do any damage. Her skills purely increase her capability to do damage, whereby she increases her attack, damage dealt, crit chance and crit damage. So the way her ultimate works is that her ultimate is going to be a very strong defense ignoring single target damage dealing skill. It is also a suppressor for the ruler of lightning guild raid, but the thing is, her ultimate doesn't increase from using basic attacks. You have to use her skills in order to boost her ultimate gauge. So I'm not too sure how fast she charges with her skills, but I'm assuming that after you use all 3 skills, you can use her ultimate skill. And in that case, you are basically using her ultimate skill every 15 seconds or so, right? So that is pretty decent and pretty huge, and eventually outside of guild raid, she can also double up as a secondary DPS alongside legendary co-set. So if you really want to do well in guild raid, I think Noho is going to be one of the must-have heroes because she is after all a suppressor, and suppressors are, you know, very limited and dedicated to a specific raid, right? So Noho is going to be one of the must-haves if you are a PvE based player. Then we come to another game-changing update that features Lina and Ace. Okay, this is 6 weeks after Legend Plus event. So if you are a free-to-play player and you want to keep up with the PvP side of things, during these 6 weeks you should be saving. Okay, you should really be saving. First off, Lina, one of the best support heroes released in 7 Nights 2. She increases allies damage dealt simply, okay, just that on her passive. She also reduces the damage dealt by the target with a single target skill. Not only that, she has recovery over time, and she also increases attack speed and movement speed of allies when she heals on her skill 3. On her ultimate, she grants shields and increases links. And straight off the bat, she is going to be used in a lot of PvE content, especially your guild raid and field expedition. She's without a doubt one of the most amazing support heroes, PvE support heroes, that not only heals but also act as a damage buffer, and she will be very difficult to replace. There's almost no alternative for her, okay, and she will be a great hero to have in the long run. So definitely a must summon in my opinion. But alongside her comes Ace, and Ace is, I'm not even gonna review him first, I'm just gonna say you must summon. Okay, Ace is a must try summon. Okay, he increases hit probability of allies. I'm still not too sure what hit probability is, but yeah, that's a thing. He also charges, deals straight line damage, pulls targets, reduce defense, chance to stun, becomes invincible, does additional damage to stun targets. You realize that this goes very well with Evan Legend Plus, because Legend Plus Evan also has a chance to stun and deals additional damage to stun targets. So there you go, that's a thing. Then for his skill 3, he removes buffs, and any hero with buff removal is going to be very good for PvP. Okay, he also becomes invincible yet again in his ultimate, deals AoE damage and has a chance to knock back. So in PvE, I think he could have a potential chance to be a very good hero as well, but in PvP, that's where he really shines. He is definitely one of the most powerful universal heroes in PvP and is used in so many comps, almost every single comp, even range comps with Juju, Claire, Yonhee, and even with Nestra Shane, alongside Nestra Shane. So that is how versatile he is, and I think he will be a great asset to anybody's inventory and anybody's PvP team. Definitely a must summon because he is a meta changer for PvP. Then we are moving on to Guilahan. I'm sure you guys will also be broke by the time this hero comes out, so not to worry. But they seem to like to put PvE specialized units right after a big update. And furthermore, Guilahan is a suppressor for one of the guild raid dragons as well. So if you are someone that really wants to prioritize doing well in PvE, Guilahan is technically a must summon because Guilahan does increase ally silence resistance, and the only other guy that does this is Velda, Rare Velda. Okay, but the fact that Guilahan has a much more, guild raid oriented skill set does make him superior to Velda. Of course, if you have Velda built, you could try to use that. I'm not too sure about the suppression, whether it will be very disastrous. But yeah, depending on that, Guilahan may be either an optional hero or a must-have hero. Okay, but overall, I think he does his job, and he also taunts, has 100% chance to taunt, which is really good, leaving your damage dealers to do what they can, and you can just run around the field and direct the dragon to him. And he also increases damage dealt by your damage dealers as well. So his skill set is very good for guild raid as intended. Next up is the summer update, I believe. And again, we have a double banner release, and that is Alice and Yuri. So we'll talk about Alice first. Alice is someone that has grown usage, okay, since her release in PvP. She is mainly used in tank and universal cons because of her ability to, increase allies' defense, also increase and also increase allies block rate and also remove debuff. So she has a very nice skill set as a support hero to buff the tankiness, the bulk of the team, and also to cleanse and heal. Okay, but not only that, she does increase allies attack speed and movement speed as well. So if you want to use her in field expedition, that's always an option. But mainly in PvP, she is usually used together with Karin or Shay as a secondary healer, and alongside Shay, she apparently can form this team called the Immortal Team, whereby your heroes just don't die. And if you put Evan, Legend plus Evan alongside Rudy with them, they don't die. And Legend plus Evan is such a good damage dealer already. So he will be the tank and the DPS itself. In that team composition, they are highly rated, Alice and Shay, which are two units that you probably will not summon for. But of course, if you think that that is a viable route you want to go in PvP, then by all means go for them, okay, when they get released. But then we have Yuri, one of the OGs in Seven Knights, okay, and she is a new range hero. This is coming 3 months after Juju's release, okay. So again, with every new range hero, I think they try to make ranged heroes as superior, okay, range comms I mean, as superior as the universal comms. And with Yuri, I think range comms have another chance because she is pretty good as a range unit alongside Juju or Claire, whoever you want to use. And of course, having Ace on your team is going to help a lot as well. So it's going to be a semi-range comp, okay? What Yuri does is she has a new effect called Enchant, and Enchant is very funny because it actually causes the enemy to attack their own allies. Very cool, I like that a lot. Okay, she also has a lot of AoE damage, she reduces defense, and she also has a lot of AoE damage dealing skills. And aside from the fact that she reduces defense, I think all the rest are just more damage and enchant oriented and nothing much there. Okay, so she's more damage oriented in a sense. So she's gonna do her job really well as a very strong range unit in PvP. Again, she is very comp dependent, team comp dependent. So unless you are running a ranged team or you want to try a ranged team, I would say she is not a must summon at all. Okay. And the final hero for this very long video is going to be Sieg. This is the 20th hero that we are covering. For Sieg, he is yet again another PvE suppressor, right? You see the pattern now. They're going to release a suppressor after every big update, right? He gives allies fear resistance and is the second hero after Theon to do that. Okay, he also increases his own defense, similar to what Guilahan has. And again, his skill set are all single target based, but also very good at allowing your damage dealers to do their job because he reduces defense. He also grants himself a shield. He also cleanses like what he does in Seven Knights 1. And he also has a huge damage dealing single target ultimate. So again, overall, his skill set is very well catered for the purpose he is intended for, which is to be the suppressor for the Ruler of Fear guild raid. Okay, so whether or not he's a must pull again depends on your kind of play. If you are more PvE oriented, then yes, he is. If you are a player that wants to contribute to guild raid, I think the answer is also yes, he should be a pull, right? Because if you are attempting to skip the Alice and Yuri banner, I think you definitely will have enough rubies for Sieg, and that means you will do better and you will contribute better to your guild raid. Okay, so with that, I just want to give you a quick summary. Over the next 6 months, we are going to be getting 15 Legend Heroes and 5 Legend Plus Heroes. For the 15 Legend Heroes, 7 of them are PvE oriented, 4 are PvP oriented, and 4 are usable in both aspects. Okay, for the Legend Plus, we are going to get 3 that are PvP oriented and 2 that are usable in both aspects. And for me, myself, I'm personally going to go for these banners. I don't know how many rubies I will have by then, but I'm definitely someone that wants to do well in PvE, okay, because I think PvE will give rewards as we go along. So I definitely need my Lene. I definitely want Rudy for overall purpose, general purpose, okay, but I'm not sure if I can get him because ultimately he's a Legend Plus. Nestra Shane, because I think by the time I get to her, my PvP will be absolutely trash, so I probably need a new PvP unit to play with, and Evan is going to help a lot as well. Lina and Ace because both of them are so good. Noho and Sieg because they are PvE oriented, and I do love PvE oriented units. Guilahan could be on this list as well, okay? And that is my strategy moving forward on what banners I want to summon on. And let me know what you guys think after this extremely long video, and hopefully it gives you a better idea of what to save and what to pull for. And hopefully it gives you a better idea on who to save for and who to pull for. And let me know in the comments if you have any other differing opinions. I would love to hear them. Big shout out to my channel members Fahas, Haku, Reggie, Batista, Yamaki and ZMD Phoenix for the support. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!